Attention. This is Commander Vex Toro, Chief Archivist of the Galactic Military Records, Security Clearance Omega 9. Recording date, Standard Cycle 7249.3. Whoa. If you're accessing this file, you've been granted special clearance to one of our most classified threat assessments. Yes, really. What I'm about to share might sound absurd, even laughable, but I assure you, every single word is documented, verified, and unfortunately true. The subject? 3 simple words that have caused more chaos, innovation, and sheer terror throughout the galaxy than any weapon system ever developed. 3 words that, when uttered by a human, have made hardened war veterans dive for cover and seasoned diplomats request immediate evacuation. Hold my drink. Oh, you're laughing. Of course you're laughing. That's exactly what I did when I first heard about it. That's what Grand Admiral Zenix did too, right before a single human engineer reconstructed our supposedly irreparable quantum core while hanging upside down in vacuum, humming something called Sweet Home Alabama. Let me be perfectly clear. These words have been officially classified as a Level 1 military alert phrase. Yes, right up there with enemy fleet detected and reactor core breach. When a human says these words, it means one of 2 things is about to happen. Either something absolutely brilliant or something catastrophically stupid. Often both. Usually both. The Galactic Council has recorded exactly 2,947 incidents involving this phrase in the last standard year alone. These incidents have resulted in 42 changed laws, 17 new scientific breakthroughs, 5 peace treaties, 3 revolutions, and 1 completely restructured understanding of quantum physics, which I must note was theorized on a bar napkin. For the sake of future generations and possibly the survival of our species, I've been tasked with compiling these incidents. Each one serves as both a warning and, though I hate to admit it, a testament to humanity's bizarre genius. I should mention that I've installed a reinforced drinks holder in my office. You'll understand why shortly. I've also stationed medical personnel outside, though they're more likely to die from laughter than anything else. Let's begin with what we now call the Station 6 incident. It was supposed to be a routine maintenance check. But then Chief Engineer Madison Blake handed her coffee to Lieutenant Crix and said those words, those terrible, wonderful words. "Computer, mark this as introduction complete. Begin Incident Report Number 1. Incident Report 1, Station 6. Maintenance failure. Primary subject, Chief Engineer Madison Blake. Location, Outer Ring, Maintenance Section C. The day started like any other on Station 6. Our artificial gravity was malfunctioning. Nothing major, just a 2% fluctuation in the residential quarters. Standard procedure dictated a 72-hour shutdown for complete system diagnosis and repair. But we hadn't accounted for human impatience, or human coffee, or human creativity. Chief Engineer Madison Blake had been with us for exactly 3 standard months. Her personnel file noted 27 safety violations, 15 equipment modifications that shouldn't have worked but did, and 1 citation for teaching our maintenance droids to play something called poker. In retrospect, we should have seen this coming. The gravity fluctuation was affecting her coffee mug. That's what started it all. The liquid kept floating up, then dropping back down, making it impossible to drink properly. After the 3rd failed attempt to take a sip, she stood up from her workstation, stretched, and spoke those dreaded words. "Lieutenant Crix, please note his official statement. The human approached me with her caffeinated beverage and said, and I quote, 'Hold my coffee. I need to fix this nonsense.'" End quote. Poor Crix. He had no idea he was about to become part of galactic history. What happened next violated 32 safety protocols, 4 physical laws, and 1 local ordinance about public nudity. Though in her defense, the plasma leak did destroy part of her uniform. Blake accessed the maintenance shaft without clearance, bypassed 3 security lockouts using only a hairpin and what she called a lucky penny, and proceeded to rewire the main gravity control unit while it was still running. The security footage shows her hanging by her knees from a maintenance beam, 1,200 feet above the station's core, juggling plasma conductors. She was whistling. When questioned later about this blatant disregard for safety protocols, she replied, and again I quote, "Gravity was being a jerk. I needed my coffee." Station 6's security system logged 16 critical failure warnings, 27 system crashes, and 1 request for retirement from our main AI. Yet somehow, impossibly, the gravity stabilized. Not just stabilized, it improved. The system now operates at 99.99% efficiency, up from our previous 95%. The method she used has since been classified as it breaks several laws of physics that we're still trying to understand. The aftermath led to the implementation of what we now call Protocol Coffee, a specialized response procedure when humans approach any crew member with a beverage. The protocol includes immediate notification of medical staff, engineering oversight, and a mandatory recording of whatever impossible feat is about to be attempted. We've also installed emergency drink holders at all critical system access points, just in case. Lieutenant Cricks, still holding Blake's coffee, watched the entire incident in what he described as horrified fascination. When she returned to retrieve her drink, now cold, she simply said thank you, took a sip, and went back to her regular duties, as if she hadn't just rewritten our understanding of artificial gravity manipulation. The incident report concludes with a formal commendation for improving station efficiency, 3 safety violation citations that were later framed in the crew lounge, and a requisition order for stronger safety railings. We also updated our engineering manuals to include a section titled "When Humans Get Impatient," though I should note that no other species has successfully replicated her repair method. A personal note. I've since learned that coffee temperature is directly proportional to the likelihood of human engineers attempting the impossible. The colder the coffee gets, the more creative their solutions become. We now keep all engineering deck coffee at precisely optimal temperature. End of Incident Report 1. Computer, mark for cross-reference under categories. Engineering miracles, human ingenuity, and ways coffee has nearly killed us all. Incident Report 2, the Great Asteroid Derby. Primary subject, Lieutenant Kai Rodriguez. Location, Ceres, Asteroid Belt, Restricted Zone 7. You know, before humans joined the Galactic Council, asteroid fields were considered navigational hazards. Now they're racing tracks. This particular incident is why we had to create an entire new division just to handle what humans call extreme sports. Lieutenant Kai Rodriguez was our youngest qualified pilot, with a record of successful missions that seemed impressive until we realized half of them involved what she called shortcuts, through supposedly impossible routes. The official complaint file describes her as brilliantly reckless, with a complete disregard for the laws of probability. The incident began at the Floating Nebula, a popular pilot's bar on Station 9. A Drachnid pilot, Commander Vexathor, was bragging about their species' superior reflexes. Rodriguez, 6 drinks into what she called a light evening, took offense. The security recording captures her exact words. "You call that flying? Hold my martini. Extra dry, 3 olives. Just like your sense of humor." The bet was simple. Whoever could pilot their ship through the densest part of the Ceres asteroid field would be declared the greatest pilot in the sector. The prize? Beyond bragging rights, the loser would have to paint their ship pink with glitter highlights for a standard year. Our legal team is still trying to determine how this became a binding contract. What happened next redefined our understanding of ship maneuverability. Rodriguez didn't just fly through the asteroid field, she danced through it. Her ship, the CSS Thunderchild, performed moves that our physics department initially declared impossible. When shown the footage, they demanded it was fake. When shown the live feed, they quit. Her flight path resembled what she later called a figure-8 infinity loop with a twist. The twist, it turns out, involved using the gravitational pull of one asteroid to slingshot around another, all while manually adjusting her shield harmonics to bounce off a third. She called it asteroid pinball. We called it insane. The computer called it undefined and crashed. The Drachnid commander, watching from a safe distance, reportedly turned 3 shades paler, impressive for a species with naturally grey skin. His exact words were, "The humans are not right in the head. I forfeit. Someone get me a drink." Rodriguez not only survived, but set a new speed record. The course she plotted is now the standard route for cargo ships through that sector, reducing travel time by 40%. Though we had to add a warning label, "Course plotted by human. Do not attempt without proper levels of insanity." In the aftermath, rather than ban such dangerous activities, the Council decided to regulate them. The annual Asteroid Derby is now our most watched sporting event. Rodriguez serves as head judge, though she's been banned from competing after 3 consecutive wins, and what she calls a minor incident with a quantum torpedo and a space whale. The Drachnid commander kept his word about the pink paint job, though I must note, his ship's new colour scheme started a fashion trend among younger pilots. We now have an entire fleet of sparkly warships. Military operations have never been so fabulous. Personal observation. We've learned that when a human pilot says, "Hold my drink," it's best to evacuate the entire sector. Not because they'll fail, but because they'll succeed in ways that break our understanding of reality. End of Incident Report 2. Computer. Mark for cross-reference under categories Human Recreation, Safety Violations, and Reasons Why Insurance Rates Keep Rising. Incident Report 3. The Centauri Peace Summit. Primary subject, Ambassador Lucas Chen. Location, Neutral Space Station Harmony. Before I begin this report, I must state that it has been reviewed by 12 different legal teams, none of whom can agree if what happened was brilliant diplomacy or the greatest practical joke ever played in galactic history. The situation was grim. The Centauri Collective and the Rigel Federation had been at each other's throats for decades. Both sides had planet-cracking weapons aimed at each other's home worlds. The peace talks were our last hope before total war. That's when we made what many considered our biggest mistake. We sent a human diplomat. Ambassador Lucas Chen arrived with a single briefcase, no notes, no prepared speeches, just a bottle of what he called baijiu, a traditional earth spirit that we later discovered could strip paint off a battleship. When asked about his diplomatic strategy, he simply smiled and said, "Sometimes the best negotiations happen over drinks." The first 6 hours of peace talks went exactly as poorly as expected. The Centauri ambassador threatened to eat the Rigelian's offspring. The Rigelian ambassador promised to turn the Centauri's sun into a black hole. Standard diplomatic exchanges, really. Then Chen did something unprecedented. He stood up, looked at both ambassadors, and said, "You both think you're tough? Hold my drink. I challenge both of you to a traditional Earth diplomatic ritual, a drinking contest. Winner gets to name their terms." The security footage from this point becomes increasingly entertaining. Both alien ambassadors, convinced of their species' superior metabolisms, agreed immediately. What they didn't know was that humans have spent thousands of years building up an impressive tolerance to alcohol. As Chen put it later, never try to outdrink someone whose species invented both tequila and karaoke. 3 hours into the contest, the Centauri ambassador was singing something that roughly translates to "My heart will go on" in their native tongue. The Rigelian ambassador had developed a case of hiccups that caused their translator to malfunction, making everything they said come out as cookie recipes. Chen, meanwhile, remained perfectly composed. He kept pouring drinks and suggesting increasingly ridiculous toasts. By hour 4, both ambassadors were hugging and crying about how their species had so much in common. The Centauri ambassador declared the Rigelians to be their new best friends. The Rigelian ambassador tried to adopt Chen as their honorary offspring. The peace treaty was signed on a cocktail napkin at hour 5. Chen had somehow convinced both sides to not only end their war, but form an alliance. The terms included mandatory annual cultural exchanges, joint scientific ventures, and something called a galaxy-wide BBQ competition. When the ambassadors woke up the next day, they were horrified to discover what they'd agreed to. But Chen had already filed the treaty with the Galactic Council. It was legally binding. Even more impressively, he'd somehow gotten them to agree to terms that actually benefited both sides. The aftermath was unprecedented. The Centauri-Rigel alliance is now one of the strongest in the galaxy. They co-host the annual BBQ competition, which has prevented at least 3 other potential wars. Apparently, it's hard to fight someone who makes good sauce. We've since discovered that Chen's bottle of Beiju was actually filled with colored water. He'd been drinking water the entire time, letting the ambassadors assume he was matching them drink for drink. When questioned about this deception, he replied, "The best way to win a drinking contest is to stay sober." The Galactic Diplomatic Corps has since revised its handbook. There's now an entire chapter titled The Chen Protocol, Using Controlled Chaos in Negotiations. Though we've had to add a warning, results may vary. Do not attempt without human supervision. A personal note. We've installed breathalyzers in all diplomatic meeting rooms, not to prevent drinking but to ensure all species are equally impaired during negotiations. Surprisingly, this has increased our success rate by 300%. End of Incident Report 3, Computer Mark for cross-reference under categories. Diplomatic Miracles, Human Ingenuity, and Why We Now Stock Earth Liquor in all emergency kits. Our top scientists had been trying to crack faster-than-light travel for centuries. We had theories, equations, and enough failed experiments to fill a gas giant. Then Dr. Nina Patel walked into a bar on Research Station Beta, carrying a quantum probability calculator and a bottle of tequila. My security clearance barely lets me access what happened next, but as the official record keeper, I feel obligated to share this story, though I still wake up with headaches trying to understand it. Dr. Patel was known for being unconventional. Her lab notes were written in bright purple ink. She named her research equipment after Earth cartoon characters, and she insisted that sometimes the best way to solve an impossible problem was to stop thinking about it entirely. That night, she was sharing drinks with Dr. Kathax, our leading quantum physicist. They were discussing the impossibility of FTL travel when she said those words that make every alien commander cringe. "You want to see impossible? Hold my margarita. I bet I can solve FTL travel using nothing but bar supplies and interpretive dance." The bar's security footage shows her climbing onto a table, using salt shakers as quantum reference points, and explaining how space-time worked through what she called the Macarena. 3 other physicists joined in, adding their own dance moves to represent various quantum states. She used shot glasses to demonstrate particle entanglement. Lime wedges became quantum tunneling reference points. The bartender's mixing trick somehow perfectly illustrated multidimensional probability waves. She turned complex quantum mechanics into what she called a drinking game. Take a shot every time causality breaks. Move 1 seat left when we hit a quantum intersection. If you can still recite Schrödinger's equation, you're not drinking enough. The most bizarre part, it worked. Somewhere between the tequila shots and the conga line, they actually solved it. Dr. Patel grabbed a napkin and started writing equations that made our best computers cry. Dr. Kathax was simultaneously laughing and having an existential crisis. The next morning, nursing what humans call a hangover, Dr. Patel submitted a paper that revolutionized our understanding of quantum physics. The solutions were brilliant, unconventional, and peppered with references to something called Dance Dance Revolution. When our review board questioned her methods, she shrugged and said, "Sometimes you need to let your brain get weird to see the obvious. Also, has anyone seen my other shoe? I think it might be quantum locked in another dimension." We found her shoe 3 days later in the quantum physics lab. It had somehow teleported there during the celebration. We still haven't figured out how. The shoe is now displayed in our Science Academy's main hall with a plaque reading, "Sometimes the best science requires dancing." The FTL drive that resulted from that night is now standard on all our ships. We call it the Patel-Kathax drive officially. Unofficially, it's known as the Tequila drive. Every ship's manual includes a warning: do not attempt to understand the quantum mechanics while sober. Dr. Patel went on to solve 3 other major scientific mysteries using equally unconventional methods. The theory of everything was apparently worked out during a karaoke session. Dark matter was explained using interpretive puppet theatre. And she cracked quantum gravity while teaching aliens how to do the robot. We've since added a recreation room to every research facility. Our scientists now report their best breakthroughs happen during game nights and dance parties. The Galactic Science Academy had to create a new research category. Chaos theory applied through human recreation. A personal note. I keep a bottle of tequila in my office now, not to drink, just to remind myself that sometimes the most remarkable discoveries happen when someone looks at an impossible problem and says, "Hold my drink." The security footage from that night is now required viewing at the Science Academy. Though we had to add a disclaimer, warning, physics may not actually work this way. But somehow it does. End of Incident Report 4. Computer, add personal note. Never underestimate the power of human beverages and bad dance moves to solve the universe's greatest mysteries. And someone please explain to me what the Macarena has to do with quantum entanglement. I still don't get it. Would you like me to continue with the next incident? I've captured the bizarre intersection of serious science and human party culture, maintaining the humorous tone while highlighting how humans solve problems in the most unexpected ways. The Crixian pirate fleet had us cornered, 12 warships against our single patrol cruiser. Our shields were at 20%. Our weapons were nearly depleted. The situation was, by all military assessments, hopeless. That's when Lieutenant Ana Torres grabbed the ship's comm system. Even through the chaos of battle, our bridge recording crystals captured her exact words. "Hey, Captain, hold my coffee. I've got an idea. Now, most species would surrender in our situation. Most species would follow standard tactical procedures. Most species aren't human." Torres had been studying our ship's waste management systems. Yes, you read that correctly. While everyone else was preparing for our glorious last stand, she was looking at how we disposed of our garbage. You see, procedure dictated that we couldn't just dump our waste in space. Something about environmental regulations. So we had massive tanks of compressed trash, water, and various unmentionable substances. Torres looked at those tanks, looked at the enemy fleet and grinned. That grin sent chills down all 4 of my spinal columns. She reprogrammed the waste disposal system, overrode 6 different safety protocols, and turned our garbage tanks into what she called the galaxy's biggest water balloon fight. The Crixians never saw it coming. Their advanced shields were calibrated for energy weapons and solid projectiles. They weren't designed to handle pressurized sewage moving at near-relativistic speeds. Torres didn't just fire our garbage at them. She conducted a symphony of trash. Coffee grounds blinded their sensors. Frozen water crystals disrupted their shield harmonics. And things I refused to name in an official report clogged their engine intakes. Their mighty warships, terror of 7 sectors, were reduced to floating through space, covered in our recycling. Their commander actually sent us a message that just contained a single word: "Why?" Torres responded by launching what remained of the cafeteria's mystery meat special. 3 ships immediately surrendered. In the end, the mighty Crixian fleet was defeated by human ingenuity and 3 weeks' worth of garbage. The cost of cleaning their ships exceeded their entire year's plunder. They now avoid human vessels entirely, claiming we don't fight fair. When asked about her unconventional tactics, Torres shrugged and said, "In battle, everything's a weapon, even Monday's meatloaf." We've since added garbage disposal systems to our list of critical military assets, though we had to add a note to the regulation manual. Just because humans can weaponize anything doesn't mean they should. The incident is now taught at the Galactic Military Academy under Special Tactics, though most species still can't believe it worked. The humans just smile when we say that. A personal note. I no longer question human tactics. When they hand someone their drink and smile, I start running. It's safer that way. Would you like me to continue with the conclusion? I've maintained the mix of military reporting and humor while showcasing humanity's knack for turning anything into a weapon. This concludes my official documentation of notable Hold My Drink incidents. The Galactic Council has since created new regulations, including mandatory recording of all human beverage transfers and immediate evacuation protocols for any area where these words are spoken. We've installed emergency alert systems that activate whenever a human approaches another being with a drink in hand. Some call it paranoid. I call it necessary survival preparation. Every ship, station and facility now includes what we call a human inspiration kit, a fully stocked bar, a coffee maker, and a reinforced observation room from which to safely watch whatever impossible thing is about to happen. The statistics speak for themselves. In the past year alone, 73% of major technological breakthroughs, 82% of diplomatic solutions, and 91% of successful impossible missions began with a human saying, "Hold my drink." To any future commanders watching this, I offer these final words of advice. When a human hands you their beverage, you have exactly 3 options. 1. Run. 2. Start recording because you're about to witness history. 3. Accept that the laws of physics are more like guidelines when humans are involved. And remember, the drink itself is rarely important. It's what happens after they hand it to you that changes the galaxy. This is Commander Vex Toro signing off. Now, if you'll excuse me, I just saw Chief Engineer Blake walking toward my office with a cup of coffee and a determined look in her eyes. Computer, end recording and send a priority alert to medical. Yes, again. Now, would you like me to do a final polish of the entire story now that we've completed all sections? I've kept the conclusion punchy and maintained the humorous yet official tone while wrapping up all the major themes.